Hey guys, this is class notes number 17. So yesterday night's class, again today is Friday, this is Thursday night's class. We did the same program on Tuesday night. And apart from having a solid warm-up where we specifically focused on moving our spine, especially with the serving teacups exercise, which I didn't film for this class notes episode, we then went into the preparation for the swallow palm change. Okay, so this 17th episode of the class notes, Bagua Zhang class notes, is only focusing on the mobility work that we do in order to prepare everyone in class for this beautiful palm change, the swallow palm. Okay, so let's get started. The exercises here are of course relevant for you if you are practicing Bagua Zhang, especially in our Yizong system. And if you're not, they are an amazing set of exercises that will help you improve both your hip mobility, your knee mobility, your ankle mobility, and even the mobility of the joints of your toes. So you might find this one interesting. Let's get started. The approach is designed in such a way that we start with the most basic stance. We want to move into a very specific stance, and we only do so with the lower body. So we keep our spine and our upper body shut down, so to say. So we're not moving our upper body at all. It's just focused around moving our legs down into this squatting position here, where you take your back leg, you put your knee through, and then you sit down on the thigh, on the calf of your rear leg. The front foot stays flat on the floor, and from here you just move your body back up into the standing position before you change to the other side. Okay, this move alone is quite challenging for regular folks that don't practice this kind of stuff in their daily lives, which is almost everyone. So start with this exercise and take your time. It's challenging. Mostly, if you can't make it down into the full position here, it's because of the foot placement of your rear foot. So maybe you step too far out to the side, so sitting down and squatting down to this position here becomes harder. Or the other problem that might occur is usually that you're not able to move out of this low position without the assistance of your hands. And in this case, use your hands as long as you need them. Okay, at a certain point you won't need the extra support anymore, and you will be able to move up out of this stance without the assistance of your hands. And this obviously is the goal for this very first stage of this mobility series here. Okay, sit down, try to keep your spine straight. Sit down, and this is just, as I said before, I don't want to move my upper body here at all. I'm only focusing on my stepping here and sitting down into the full flexion of my rear leg. Okay, so the second step is already making things more complicated, because after we sit down in the same position as we did before, we now want to lift up. But while doing so, we add a rotation. So we end up facing the other direction. Okay, again, I step, I sit down, and when I move my body up again, I also rotate my feet. And here comes the trick. I am practicing barefoot here on tatami mats, and they're quite sticky. Now, I don't know the setup of your practice. You might be wearing shoes. Anyway, I recommend you don't wear shoes and you try this barefoot. The interesting thing is that we have 2 points where we pivot around. And on one foot, it's the heel. And on the other foot, it's the balls of your foot. Okay, so that's interesting and a very challenging thing to understand first, but once you get it down, you will notice that there is no friction, that you will be able to move your feet without strain. And so your knees won't feel any strain either. So it's interesting. See that again? You step, okay, you go down. Right here, my front foot is flat on the floor, fully planted. And the rear foot is placed on the balls of my foot. Now when I move up, the back foot pivots around the ball and the front foot pivots around the heel. You see that? So pivot point here, pivot point here. And because I do that while I move up, there will be no strain in the ligaments supporting my knee. Okay, and this is important. Also, I want to initiate the rotation of the movement while I am moving up. So make it a fluid motion, moving up, and while you do so, use the 2 pivot points of your feet in order to turn and to face the other direction. Okay, looks quite complicated, but to be honest, once you're down in that sitting position, it's almost like you have no other option than doing so. Okay, so that was step 2. Stepping down and then switching and pivoting around the heel and the balls of my foot. Okay, so here comes the next step. Again, I'm sitting down and I'm moving up. But now I add another challenge. There's a new movement coming in. So while I pivot around the heel and the balls of my foot and I move up into rotation, I immediately shift my weight to the back leg. This one, the rear leg. Okay, I shift my weight, so my front leg will be empty. There is no weight in that front leg. So I will be able to lift the leg, pull the knee towards my chest, and internally rotate my calf here, lifting from my foot, which is also tilted sideways. Then I move into the next step. I sit down, as I did before. Now move up, rotation again. Now I shift my weight to the rear leg, so my front leg is empty and I can lift the foot and lift the knee and pull it towards my chest. So in this stance here, you want to close the gap between your belly or your ribs and your thigh as much as possible. You want to lift that knee as high as possible. Okay, that's the second part of this mobility exercise. Pull this one up as far as you can. Internally rotate your foot here. Tilt your foot slightly as if you are lifting something with your front foot. And try to keep this position for a few seconds before you put the foot down again and at the next step. Sitting down, rotating up, shifting the weight to the back leg, and then lifting the front leg. Okay, pull the knee as close as possible. Pull it really towards your chest. Lift this front foot here. Try to find balance on your rear leg. And keep your back straight. Okay? So that was part 3 of this mobility series. Okay? So what we did right now is we are still only moving our lower body. Okay? We had the sitting down portion, we have the moving up and rotation portion, and we have the shifting the weight back to the rear leg and lifting the front leg portion. So that's 3 challenging things you can do, and they will all be beneficial for your lower body mobility. Okay? So the next step then, after you got this movement down, is to connect the lower body motion to the upper body, and in this case specifically the spine. Okay, I think something that is very often missed in modern days mobility training is the phase where you combine or you connect the full range of motion of like isolated joints and you integrate them back into a coherent full body motion. And this is something that you will find in almost every palm change in Bagua Zhang's circle walking practice, that the whole body needs to move in a coherent fashion, and you basically always move all the joints of your body into this opening and closing motion. You see this now? I'm squatting down again, and I go to the closing part of the motion. I sit down, everything becomes really tight. I go to the end ranges of my joints. And when I move up again, I open up my body again. It opens up, stretching everything, increasing the distance between the joints. You will see that in my spine, also integrating my shoulder joints into the movement. It becomes really fancy. Now, taking the step, sitting down, right? We've been there before. Now, since I've used my hands now, this is the part where I integrate the lower body with the movement of my upper body. I now want to move up, and I dive underneath my arm here. And I need to stretch and extend my spine. Both first leaning sideways, but then extending up and really opening also the area here of my hip. After I closed it down while squatting, I now want to open up this hip. You see there's a big stretch here, opening up the area of my hip flexors, opening up the chest here. And then when I'm really open here, I lift my front foot again to close the whole motion again and bring in everything together into this final stance. Okay, so this is the next section. So I move down, sit into closing. Then I turn around. I open up my whole body again. I lean back, shift the weight to my back leg. And after that, I close again. Okay, in Chinese terms, it's called kai he, which means kai is the opening portion of a motion and he is the combining or closing part of a movement pattern. Okay, so sit down. Again, I sit down. From here, I rotate upwards. I shift the weight to my back leg. I fully extend my spine, really long and elongated spine. I open the area of my hip flexor here, and then I pull it back and close everything in that final part of the motion. Now, this was section number 4, and if you can do even more, you can move up to this next part here, which is just slightly more complicated because it adds another step. So, oh wait, I have to get my face out of the way here. Okay, so it starts with a side step. See that again. Down first. If you've been watching my Bagua class notes before, you will notice that this is the same stance that we practiced in the tiger palm change. Okay, so you sit down. This is the first part. Down first. Now you take another step forward with the back leg. And now you sit down into the position that we've just practiced before. Sit down, turn around, shift the weight to the rear leg, close the whole motion, and step forward again. Yeah? Okay, one more time. I have to put my face in the other corner. First, down, like so. Step behind, sit down. Now move up, shift the weight to the back leg, and close the whole thing again. Yeah? So, this is it. This is the preparation for the swallow palm change. And if you practice Bagua Zhang, it will be helpful to practice this exercise series, let's say twice or 3 times a week. Do 10 repetitions on each section that I demonstrated. And if you're not into Bagua Zhang, well, it might still help you. Especially this low sitting position here is super interesting, and it will definitely improve your knee health if you will be able to squat down fully, to bend your knee fully, and then move up without assistance. Also, when you move up, the extension of your whole body like extending your spine, opening the area of your hip flexor, and then closing it back together, is a nice movement education, which will make your body and your whole movement more accessible to you. Okay, so give it a try. Let me know what you think, and well, see you next time.